The Italian autumn season continued today with the Gran Piemonte, the 103rd edition of this event, which changes its parcours almost every year. This edition, very much one for the climbers. 183 k's from Eglier to the Sanctuary of Oropa, a regular finishing venue for stages of the Giro d'Italia, most recently in 2017, when Dumoulin took the win before going on to win the race overall. Amongst the big name climbers in the event this year were the winner of this year's Giro, Richard Carapaz, as well as Tour de France winner Egan Bernal, Italian national champion Davide Formolo, and Dan Martin of UAE Team Emirates. The early break consisted of Rossetto, Barbero, Jesper, Romano, Bias and Battaglin. Their max time gap was a little over 5 minutes over the predominantly flat early part of the race, but soon after it started to tumble as the likes of Team Ineos and UAE controlled the front of the peloton. The first of the two big climbs toward the finish was Nelva, 13 k's at 3.5%, and there Ineos seriously ramped up the pace, catching the breakaway one by one until it was just Rossetto of Team Cofidis who was left out front. Eventually, even he would succumb to the pace and get caught with 25 kilometres remaining until the finish. From that moment onwards, Team Ineos were ever present on the front of the bunch, leading them down the descent towards the final climb to the finish in Oropa. That climb starts with just over 12 kilometres to go. Now initially the gradient isn't particularly harsh, but the speed being set meant there were a lot of tired riders that would quickly shed out of the back very early on. And in fact, it wasn't until 4 kilometres to go that anyone was able to attack. This is Matthias Frank of AG2R making a move. However, behind him, Diego Rosa was quick to up the pace, his teammates Bernal and Ramiro Sosa glued to his wheel. A k or so later and Frank was brought back in, the group considerably whittled down by now. In fact, once Sosa hit the front, it was down to just 6 riders. Such was his strength today that it was soon just he left with teammate Egan Bernal. Tour de France champion though wanted to make very sure of this one today. He would glance over his shoulder and then put in an attack soon after. It was a show of dominance by Team Ineos that we haven't seen from the British team for quite some time. From this moment onwards, Bernal barely looked back and the others looked to be fighting it out for the minor places. Amongst them, Dan Martin here, who at this point was in 6th place on the road. Coming on towards 1 kilometre to go, and Bernal's gap over the next rider was hovering at around 10 seconds. The gradients here relenting slightly, he was able to therefore increase his speed. And then with a few hundred metres to go to the finish, it was obvious that this was Bernal's race. It would be his first victory, in fact, since the Tour de France this summer. And I have to say, it's great to see a Tour de France champion racing so well, so deep into the autumn season. A dominant performance then from Ineos, and with the first two over the line, 22 and 21 years old respectively, doesn't bode too well for the others, does it? Egan Bernal winning the Gran Piemonte, Ivan Ramiro Sosa in 2nd place, and then a great ride by Nance Peters of AG2R to take 3rd. Well, what can you say about this man? He's going to win a lot of races in his career, isn't it? But great to see him so competitive in these one-day races. These are your results. In 4th place, it was Manny Bookman of Bora Hansgrohe, and rounding out the top 5, Dan Martin of UAE Team Emirates. Today marked the penultimate one-day classic in Italy. We'll be back on Saturday with highlights of Il Lombardia, so hopefully you will join us then.